folks doing? Well, I don't mean to be so rude. Let's go ahead and take my sunglasses off for right now. Put on my regular spectacles on my glasses. Alright, I can see a lot better now. Can you hear me as well? I hope you can. Well, today we're going to talk about the Lord's evening meal, or the evening meal of God. Do you know how they're connected? Do you know what they have to do with the great battle of Armageddon, or the great war of Armageddon waged by Jehovah, our God? Do you know what the connections are? Well, I'll help you figure that out, and we're going to talk about that. But before I begin, I would like to let you know that I'm going to read a couple of accounts or passages from the book of Leviticus, okay? And they're only about 8 verses long, each one of them. But bear with me. Try not to let your mind trail off, because this piece of information is very important. All right? Okay. My name is Andrew Westberg, by the way. And if you would like to, at the end, please join my channel. Please sign up for one of the memberships: first level, second level, or third level. W Waves of the Future Level 1, W Waves of the Future Level 2, or W Waves of the Future Level 3. All right? I'll let you make your choice. To begin with, to make the connections, we're going to look at the book of Leviticus in the Bible. And by the way, I'm using the 2013 revision of the New World Translation of the Holy Scriptures, published by Jehovah's Witnesses. All right, if you can see. So we're going to the book of Leviticus. Please bear with me. Try not to trail off. And we're going to start in chapter 3. Leviticus chapter 3, I believe, is on page 173. All right. And we're going to read verses 1 through 8. So remember, try not to get too bored. I'll try to keep it as lively as possible. And we'll go ahead and get through this, all right? So Leviticus 3, 1 through 8, it says, "If his offering is a communion sacrifice, and if he is presenting it from the herd, whether a male or a female, he should present a sound animal before Jehovah. He is to lay his hand on the head of his offering, and it will be slaughtered at the entrance of the tent of meeting. And Aaron's sons, the priests, will sprinkle the blood on all sides of the altar. He will present part of the communion sacrifice as an offering made by fire to Jehovah. The fat that covers the intestines, all the fat that surrounds the intestines, and the 2 kidneys with the fat on them that is nearest the loins. He will also remove the appendage of the liver along with the kidneys. Aaron's sons will make it smoke on the altar on top of the burnt offering that is placed on the wood that is over the fire. It is an offering made by fire as a pleasing aroma to Jehovah." Verse 6, it goes on to say, "If his offering is from the flock or for a communion sacrifice to Jehovah, he will present a sound male or a female animal. If he is presenting a young ram as his offering, then he will present it before Jehovah. He will lay his hand on the head of his offering, and it will be slaughtered in front of the tent of meeting. Aaron's sons will sprinkle his blood on all sides of the altar." So those were specific instructions laid out for certain members of the priest in the hierarchical rank. There was the Most High Priest, the High Priest, and the regular priest. Okay. So let's move on to Leviticus chapter 19. Leviticus chapter 19 is on page 197, and this will all come into play. If you bear with me till the end of the video, you'll see what I mean. Okay, 197. And we're going to start with verse 3 and read until verse 8. 19, verse 3 through 8. Each of you should respect his mother and his father, and you should keep my Sabbath. I am Jehovah your God. Do not turn to worthless gods or make for yourselves gods of cast metal. I am Jehovah your God. Now, if you offer a communion sacrifice to Jehovah, you should sacrifice it in such a way that you gain approval for yourself. Okay, you should sacrifice it in such a way that you should gain approval for yourselves. It should be eaten on the day of your sacrifice and on the next day, but what is left over until the third day should be burned in the fire. If though any of it is eaten on the third day, it is an offensive thing that will not be accepted with approval. The one eating it will answer for his error, because he has profaned a holy thing of Jehovah, and that person must be cut off from his people. All right. A person who does that is considered unclean. He has to be dissented from his people. He has to be disseminated from his people, cut off from his people. In modern terms, you might say excommunicated or disfellowshipped. All right. So, the thing about blood, there's also another stipulation there that's very important to cover, and we don't want to leave that out. It is Leviticus chapter 17, verses 10 through 12, and that's on page 195. Says, if any man of the house of Israel or any foreigner who is residing in your midst eats any sort of blood, I will certainly set my face against the one who is eating the blood, and I will cut him off from among his people. For the life of the flesh is in the blood, and I myself have given it on the altar for you to make atonement for yourselves, because it is the blood that makes atonement by means of the life in it. That is why I have said to the Israelites, none of you should eat blood, and no foreigner who is residing in your midst should eat blood. Very specific instructions as to what God's standards were, what his rules were, what his laws were. Okay, you must not take blood in orally, even in modern times intravenously. It's okay to have a blood draw, just don't use blood transfusion. They're a safe alternative to blood transfusion. Now, before you cut me off, before you stop the video, let's move on to the Lord's evening meal. All right? I'm going to talk a little bit about transubstantiation and consubstantiation. First Corinthians. I know all that sharing going on upstairs at the night of the Super Bowl on Sunday. Not really the subject matter for my video, but if you can hear that, that's what's going on. First Corinthians 11 and verse 20. Page 1536 in the Bible. When you come together in one place, it is not really to eat the Lord's evening meal. 21. For when you eat it, each one takes his own evening meal beforehand, so that one is hungry, but not another is intoxicated. So this is about the Lord's Last Supper, partaking of the emblems of the red wine and the unleavened bread. The unleavened bread symbolizes his body. The red wine symbolizes Jesus Christ's blood. In no way did they mean for the wine to miraculously turn into somebody's blood after consumption. So there's no biblical principle behind consubstantiation and transubstantiation based on Leviticus 17:10 through 12. It's just not possible. It doesn't happen, and God doesn't approve of that. All right. So let's talk about Armageddon for a minute. Is Armageddon in the Bible? Well, yes, it is. We're going to make the connection in a very few short minutes. Let's go to Revelation. Revelation chapter 16, verses 14 and 16. That is on page 1654. Okay. Yes, sir. They are, in fact, expressions inspired by demons, and they perform signs, and they go out to kings of the entire inhabited earth to gather them together to the war of the great day of God the Almighty. So God is waging war here. Jehovah is the one waging war. Armageddon is Jehovah's war, not a human war, not a war instigated by man or by the devil, but is instigated by Jehovah, caused by Jehovah. And then verse 16, and they gathered them together to the place that is called in Hebrew Armageddon. Okay. Never mind the Def Leppard song where he says Armageddon it. Are you getting it? Are we getting it? Am I getting it? That's not what that's about. Armageddon. Mountain of Megiddo. If you care to look it up, First and Second Chronicles, probably chapter 35, if I'm correct. Maybe chapter 33 talks about the mountain of Megiddo. It was about a global situation that would be happening, not in any one particular spot in the earth. Okay. Armageddon is a global situation, an earth-wide situation all over the earth that is caused and started by, waged by Jehovah, our God. Now, here comes the other part. Revelation. Revelation chapter 19. Revelation chapter 19. This is the best part right there at the end of my video. And please bear with me. Don't stop the video there. Please pay attention to what I'm about to tell you. Revelation chapter 19 and verse 18. I hope I'm doing good enough or well enough in my ASMR for you. Say Revelation 19:18 on page 1658. Let's start off with verse 17. It said, I saw also an angel standing in the sun, and he cried out with a loud voice and said to all the birds that fly in mid heaven, come here, be gathered together to the great evening meal of God, so that you may eat the flesh of kings, and the flesh of military commanders, and the flesh of strong men, and the flesh of horses, and of those seated on them, and the flesh of all, of free men as well as of slaves, and of small ones and great. Okay. So when you see a hawk, a couple of hawks, or vultures, or ravens flying around in the sky and looking for something to eat, and they smell a dead animal or a corpse laying there on the ground, what do they do? What do you notice that they do? Anyone experienced will tell you that they circle around in the sky, examining it, picking up the odor of the dead corpse, of the dead animal before eating it. So that's what it was mentioning in Revelation chapter 19, verse 17. There was flying around in mid heaven, almost circling, always perspective of the sun, just before they go down and have their meal. Eating the meal of military commanders, military officials. They're all going to be dead. There's going to be a meal prepared for the animals after Armageddon is finished. They will be destroyed at Armageddon by Jehovah if they don't give up refusing Jehovah's principles. If they continue to refuse his principles, that is what's going to happen. If they continue to persecute Jehovah's people, and the Bible says in Zephaniah, if you are touching my servant, you are touching the pupil of my eye. That's what's going to happen. Jehovah is going to make room for his righteous one, kill off the military commanders, make a meal for the birds, for the animals flying around in the sky. So that's the connection between the Lord of the evening meal and the evening meal of God, as mentioned in Revelation chapter 19, verse 17 and 18. Right? Well, I hope you found this an informative video. And unfortunately, I had a relative pass away in my family just 3 days ago. That's not why I have a smile on my face. I just know I will see him again in the paradise earth during the 1,000 year millennial reign of Christ, during the resurrection. All right, that's a grieving process. But I wanted to leave you with that thought. Take care, folks. Share with your family members, and have a great day.